I am going to talk about technology. Safe way to use it, effective way to use technology. Technology in and of itself isn't the scary thing. The thing that's scary is the way men use technology in a bad way. It's a neutral thing in overall, as a whole. In summary, this entire video or cast is going to be about how technology can help people and hinder people. It's going to encourage people to use technology with good discernment and to think biblically as a Christian how to use technology in an excellent way. Okay? And technology is used in many different things. It's used in business, education, finance, commerce, and communication in general. So technology in and of itself is moving forward, whether we want it to or not. Technology is like any tool since Cain and Abel. Really, it is just like a rock in the wilderness. It can be used for good reasons or for bad reasons. People have used the technology of rocks to stone people. They've used the technology of rocks to build castles and houses to live in. So it all depends on how it's used. It's just like any other tool. In essence, the Bible describes the good and the bad use of these things. Consider this tool that you're naturally given. The tongue. The Bible says the tongue is unruly from time to time, and it can spew out all sorts of nonsense. But sometimes, when it's used wisely, you can use it in a good way. One of my favorite verses for that is that the wise use their tongue effectively. Let me just look it up here for a little bit. Okay. Okay. Keep thy tongue from all evil, and thy lips from speaking guile. My tongue shall speak righteousness, and of thy praise all the day long. So you can use technology just like speaking with the tongue. You use your tongue in a good way or a bad way each day. The mouth of the righteous speaketh wisdom, and the tongue talketh of judgment. Okay? The tongue deviseth mischief, like a sharp razor working deceitfully. Psalm 52:2. Psalm 52:4. Thou lovest all devouring words, O thou deceitful tongue. Psalm 64:8. So they make their own tongue to fall upon themselves. All that see them shall flee away. Okay, so there's many different ways that people use the tongue. Back in the ancient days, and the internet and the technology is very similar to using the tongue. Okay? Proverbs 12:19. The lip of truth shall be established forever, but a lying tongue is but for a moment. And technology has been used to uncover the lying tongues from history and expose those things. So, in general, the technology exposes the evil, just as it did in the past. Okay? Here's a wonderful verse to consider. Proverbs 18:21. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. So we could replace the word tongue with death and life are in the power of technology. They that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. They that use it correctly will you eat the fruit thereof. Okay? Certain technologies, of course, will never change, like your tongue. The condition of humans having a tongue will never change. Laws of science, nature, and human condition. We're going to live, we're born, and we die. It's a condition. It's a human condition. We're conceived in the womb. We're given a specific identity, a specific fingerprint, a specific appearance. That doesn't change. It's a technology that we are given from birth, from conception, in fact. Pro-life agendas have been useful through technology. Okay? Task of daily living and everyday life. Those technologies won't change. We have to have clean water. We have to have clean clothes. We have to do certain things same way as we did in the ancient day. Ways of man with a maid, that's a technology that God designed. And of course, on technology, there have been some wicked people who have used the condition of relationships developing, the ways of a man with a maid, dating, in a bad way. And we need to be careful about those types of people online. But yet, some people have used it in a good way. I know I have a relative who was married by online dating website. Of course, that was risky, but as long as you can really do background checks and have other accountable people available, it could work, and it does work for some people. Okay. Filtering devices. Many times people are so afraid of technology that they get the strongest filtering device they can find. Well, that's like saying if you're so afraid of the human tongue, you would find something to keep it in control. From the young age of age 2, when they're in their toddler tantrums, until they're age 99. So, I don't know if it's such a good idea to always have those strong filtering devices, because sometimes the 2-year-old can hand you a simple little flower and you'll be happy with that. And sometimes a 99-year-old woman can recall a past event in history that we need to know. So it's not always wonderful to have the strongest filtering device. Rather, it is better to understand how to discern good and bad within technology. What's a good and bad use? Knowing God's Word aids in interpreting good or bad messages and information. Like I said before, you could simply replace the word tongue with technology. In computers, you could every time you see that word in the Bible, just replace it with technology. Proverbs 21:23. Whoso keepeth his mouth and his technology keepeth his souls from trouble. So be aware of how you're using your technology. Are you keeping things appropriate, or are you exposing some things that should not be exposed? So control that temperament of yours. Okay. The more you study the Word, the more you'll know how to use technology more effectively. Put it that way. Some things that appear Christian may have sin issues online. If we cannot see, hear, touch, or interact locally with those we meet online, it might not be such a good thing. If we cannot truly see, hear, and touch a pastor's hand, and they got an enormous mega church, we can't always know if they're a trustable human being up close and personal. So just because they're Christian doesn't mean that's not going to be a wonderful ministry. It doesn't matter if it's a ministry that's more liberal focused or more conservative focused. If we don't know them face to face, personally, there won't be that true connection. So you got to be careful about that. We can only guess the true nature of a person we meet online, morally speaking. If you see a YouTube channel and you're like, oh, they look like nice people, we can only guess. They might have some deep, dark, inner family secrets, and we don't know about that. So we got to be very careful before you truly meet them. Okay? They might have similar values as you, but got to really, truly be careful. Some good people online may not even have full Christian background. So you might meet somebody online who is of a different background that doesn't have any knowledge of the New Testament. They don't know anything about it. They don't consider it. They've been told not to believe it, but yet they're good and decent. Their information can be useful, and you can interact with them appropriately. But they might use a different type of religion to express their knowledge. So you got to be kind of aware of that. There might be some hidden things and messages behind what it means to be good online. Okay, I'm going to stop here, and I'm going to start up again in a little bit. Thank you.
Remember when it rained in the darkness I remain. Tears of hope run down my skin. Tears for you that will not dry. They magnify the one within. Let the outside slowly die. Remember when it rained? I felt the ground and looked up high and called your name. Remember when it rained? In the water I remain, running down, running down, running down, running down, running down, running down, running
Okay, I'm going to continue discussing technology. Good and bad side. Effective, safe use of technology. Okay? What's some of my background and why am I discussing technology so much? Did I go to MIT? Well, I did know someone pretty close that went to MIT. Things like that, but do I have a lot of experience with technology? Well, I've had a lot of things that I did in my childhood. I used to delete a lot of programs from my mother's computer. She was doing work, so I have quite a bit of experience in deleting programs and technology. So I'm not super techno savvy, but I do understand the basics. I have a math degree. Yes, I have a math degree, a bachelor's level math degree. Would I want to go on for further math? I don't know. I like math, but it costs money to get further degrees. Okay, when I was in college, I took a computer software class. I learned how they develop the basic website, how they develop the basic computer programs, software programs. It's kind of interesting how that works. I've worked at a help desk, so I have worked and interacted with people as far as safe and effective interaction with technology happens to be. I know that there's scammers out there. I know that there's virus things that people spread around and lies and things like that. I've also worked as a stage tech, so that means that it's okay to use technology to put on a little performance. Who wouldn't want to enjoy the little fun things of life? Go put on a little performance, as long as it's appropriate in a Christian perspective, biblical perspective, in general. Banking, yep. I've worked as a bank. They use a lot of computers at banks. You have to check a lot of security when you go through the banks. And of course, when you go to the banks, you find out that there's scammers out there. Oh, they're all over the place. So make sure that you use money wisely if you're using it through technology. If you ask me, I'd say it's better to buy locally and interact locally when it comes to that sort of stuff. Anyway, continue on. Multitude of counselors. Is it good to have a multitude of counselors? Yep. The more counselors, the more advice you get when it comes to using technology, the better off you'll be. The less advice, the less interaction you get with others, face-to-face and online and offline, the harder it's going to be on using technology effectively. The same with using of your tongue. The more advice you get on how to speak effectively, the better you'll be at speaking effectively. Similar. Just like if you're going to interact with a certain person, you wanted a certain job, the more you learn about how to speak effectively to do something like counseling or teaching, the better you'll be at it. The less counseling you have in that, the worse you'll be. What types of people or individuals do you recommend? I would recommend anybody who has experience. Anybody who doesn't have experience, I wouldn't really recommend them. Are counselors what about counselors from a biblical standpoint? Okay, so if you find counselors on how to use technology, if you find them from a biblical standpoint, that is even better. If you find someone who wants to teach you on how to use your tongue and become a certain type of pastor or leader, spiritually biblical, you would want to find a specific biblical standpoint person who can help you guide through that. How to use your tongue effectively, how to use your technology effectively. Same principles. Find specific biblical standpoint on your use of certain things. It could be from a certain denominational persuasion. It could be from a certain ethnic background that you believe works with what your goal is trying to achieve. So if you believe in overcoming the burdens of the Holocaust or certain wars or famines in this world, you'd want to look for those specific standpoints on how to help you use technology in those effective ways. What about needy people online? Okay, so sometimes people put needs out online, and you need to discern whether those needs are true needs and missions are necessary in those areas, or whether they're fake. Obviously, when there's a lot of refugees running around, you don't know who's true and who's false. You don't know exactly which countries are going haywire and which ones are truly in need and things like that. So you just need to really use careful discernment and discerning who is really truly needy when they're online. Maybe there's an effective local mission group available. Local is better in meeting basic needs, if you ask me. In reality, there's some cultural things that are going on, and some people are very culturally sensitive. So just assuming that helping people online will fix the world's problems isn't really truthful, because people have cultural differences and dilemmas that go on as well. Okay, do you have something besides money that you can give them? Maybe you can give them a book, maybe you can give them clothing, maybe you can give them shoes, maybe there's some food pantries that you can encourage them to set up. Maybe you can encourage them to go gather some wild edible foods if they're hungry, if that's what they're looking for. Okay, gossip. Gossip is a common thing. It's common in the past. People used their tongues to gossip. Same thing today. People use technology to gossip. Is it about a local person? Is it just chitter chatter about a local person? You don't know what's really truly going on. It's just going to be using up your time, and you're going to be trying to figure out why this person is going haywire. Is it possible that it is actually true and this person is morally corrupt? Sometimes there is morally corrupt person that you hear about online, a local person you grew up with. They turned out they weren't so good. They end up in prison, or they end up in a relationship that wasn't such a good choice or not a biblical choice. Is it gossip or is it true? You should never defame somebody that you know personally if you know that there was something that should not have happened to that person, especially if they're a vulnerable person. So be considerate of what's going on. Is it about a local group of people? Okay, is there a certain group of people, like of a certain nationality, certain political persuasion, certain type of thing that they're convinced about, a social issue? Is it a gossip about it? Are they really truly effective, or are they just blowing horns all over the place and annoying the neighborhood? Okay, are they really actually effectively helping overcome some issue, or are they just making a mess? What if it was a local group of people that was trying to overcome flood victims? Were they doing good or bad, or are you just gossiping? Were you participating in helping them overcome these issues, or were you just gossiping, sitting there judging them for what they're trying to do? Okay, is it a famous person? Is it just gossip about a famous person? You never know if you'll ever meet them personally. Is it a political person? They'll never attend your funeral or your family's funeral or your friend's funeral, things like that. Is it just a famous person? Hollywood? Okay, maybe you can meet them, maybe you can get an interaction with them. So you got to kind of be careful. Sometimes famous people can come down to our level too, so you got to be careful. It's about a popular group of people. Okay, very popular group. Okay, whatever happens to be famous people, they can come down to our level too sometimes, so you got to be kind of aware of that. Okay, and sometimes you can end up working in a hospital, and there they are as a patient. Someone knows them and such. Everybody's connected. Does the online connection enhance or isolate? Does this online connection enhance or isolate someone from needy or vulnerable people in the faith community? Are you using so much online church interactions that you're not actually willing to go and meet with actual people face to face? I don't know if I'd like to go to a wedding that was all online. Can anybody encourage others to go to a wedding like that? I'm sure they wouldn't really want to go to an online wedding. So I think face-to-face interactions is very healthy. So make sure it doesn't disconnect from vulnerable people, especially if they're in your own family or they are locally established. So make sure you're connected with vulnerable people that you love and care about. Things like that. Children, especially. Or elderly that have much wisdom. From needy and vulnerable people in other communities. There are other communities, they have needy people too. So is this enhance or isolate? Does it enhance something? Maybe someone has Down syndrome and they want to interact online. Two people from different communities can interact with each other more effectively if they interact online. They can learn that they're not the only one going through something. So sometimes online interactions can enhance vulnerable people's lives. Okay, I'm going to stop here and start over another session. Okay, I'm back for the next selection. I'm going to continue on with the session. Alright, safe interactions individually. So this could be through like a chat room or email interaction or just phone conversation, anything in general. Interaction individually. So, what are safe interactions individually? With strangers, these are people that you've never met personally, familiar and unfamiliar backgrounds. At the background of these people online, and strangers that you've never met, if it sounds like they don't understand biblical things, or they understand biblical things in a different way that you don't really agree with, you got to have a little bit of caution. The values don't seem to match, okay? if you've never met them personally, especially. But doesn't mean you can't meet strangers online. It just means that you need to be aware of when and what types of beliefs they have, what types of values they have. Are they a little bit over the top and a little bit racist? I've seen those online. And they're a little bit over the top and believe things about certain nationalities and minority groups that just simply aren't true about the overall whole of all of them, or all people. So they have a little bit of issues there. Safe interactions of the opposite sex, Sometimes you can interact individually with individuals of the opposite sex. You have different ages. You can interact with them appropriately. You don't want to interact too much with the young or vulnerable people in order to help them interact more locally. You want to encourage more local interactions, but you can interact with people of the opposite sex in a safe way. For each person, it could be a little bit different for each situation. Some people that have major infidelity problems should probably not interact so heavily with certain individuals. Some people that are just able to overcome that can just forgive and forget and move on. You can move forward into certain things. Okay. Yep. Safe interactions individually, young or vulnerable people. Now, I personally would not encourage a lot of young people interacting with social networking and things like that. I would encourage safe environments, technological environments, or just no technology at all. They should learn how to go rake leaves. They should go and play checkers. They should have more interactions with learning to play a piano or something like that, a different type of technology. So all they really need is just a good cup of coffee and a friendly little conversation. They don't need all the fancy little technology tricks. Okay, people online can have false identities. Usually if it's a business-based setting, they're paid, they're required to say their name and who they are, like at a bank or an online school. The professional person that's being paid would probably give their true identity, so you can identify them. Okay, but when it comes to just a general joke website or even a Facebook website or just a general Craigslist website that has no restrictions or payments or nobody's making an income, the identity is more likely could be false. So you need to double check those things. Dating websites is another place where people love to put out false identities and information about themselves. Okay, it's no different than any other time. The Bible talks about the lying tongue, so look that up. Okay. Positive or encouraging resources. Okay, technology can have positive resource. You can use it for illustrations of different things. You can click on a website or an online movie and say, okay, in my life I went through this or that event, and see how it looks and see what I went through, and you can show it to people and say, this was really tough on me, and see that this worked for them. You can use internet as an illustration for something that you went through in life, and not a bad way. You can say, I wish more schools had more of this edition for people with Asperger's syndrome or something, and show the website. Or look at how successful this family is when they do these things or that thing. They seem so happy. Just use it as an illustration. There's other positive, encouraging things that you can use technology for. For education, you can keep up with history and things of that sort. Keep up with what different things in nature that you've never seen before. Educational resources. You've never heard this or that sound, and you want to learn how to play a piece of music a little bit better. Technology is useful for that. Truthful witness. The technology can help you with more truthful witnessing. Maybe there's a crime in the area and you need a more truthful witness, and you need to see, okay, was this person possibly a criminal? Well, you can look at his background, you can see what's really going on in that person's mind and heart, and see what's really going on. Social experiments, yes, of course there are false identities, but people can use different types of identities to get social experiments. I've seen an individual who does social experiments where he purposefully puts people in certain situations to see if their reactions will change. And you can use technology to look up those types of things, see if they'll stop being nasty for certain reasons. Revealing of the heart. The technology will reveal the heart. You'll see how people will gaslight you. Face to face, you might not get gaslighted. They'll seem like normal, happy, peppy people, but online, they don't interact very well. They gaslight you. They seem narcissistic, full of themselves. They don't seem like they're real and true. They don't seem to interact with you in a biblically appropriate way. So they're gaslighters. It just reveals the heart. Angry words, they might come out on the internet, but you never see that in face-to-face interaction. Those angry words. You thought they were Christian or something, or biblically based, but they have angry words all the time. Foul language. You might find more of that in certain people that you never thought you'd ever find on the internet. But here it is. False accusations. You could find that on the internet. Usually face-to-face you'll be like, okay, I thought I could trust you, but they didn't really get a full story, so there's lack of a full story, unfortunately. So you get false accused for some reason. Technology can have time-wasting addictions. Unfortunately, if you don't have certain things to do, people will waste their time. If people are in a sickness or an illness or a time of their life where they are stuck, they're in a job change, it seems like they're stuck, they could be time wasting on the internet instead of using that time more effectively to overcome their burden. So it can be very addicting and problematic in that way. The internet and technology can have definitely dangerous child predator and stalking issues. Yes, that can definitely happen. It can happen. The child predator and stalker could be male or female. Don't assume that, oh, it's all males or it's all females. No, it can be both. The reason is because, well, teenagers go through development stages. They just go through these stages and they talk in a certain way that seems kind of conniving, interesting, new, something new in a relationship, so to speak. And people just looking through a thrill, whatever it is. And there have been people, teachers and professional people that have gotten trapped by that. A 14-year-old? Or is that a 27-year-old? We don't know. We don't know the true identity of that individual. Sometimes it is very hard to see and determine what the age of that child happens to be. And through the internet, you can't tell. You don't know that person. You don't know that family personally. So, of course, they're vulnerable to that. Previous contact or interaction that was negative, offline and then online. So if you previously had a contact with someone, it turned sour offline, there was some stalking problems, and then they went online, they started stalking. That can be a problem for some people. That would be kind of frightening for some individuals. For some people, they just want to turn off technology overall in order to get away from those type of individuals. Unfortunately, those stalkers are out there. Making a plain person famous. Okay? A lot of times if a person becomes famous, they need a lawyer to protect themselves from fans who are out of control. They start stalking the famous person. So just because you have a little YouTube channel, a few likes here and there, you got to be careful because you could be stalked for just being a plain average Joe. Especially if you have a lot of views on certain things or a lot of people know you through the internet. Okay? Stop here and start over at the next session.